Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Ich warte seit Wochen auf diesen Tag und tanz vor Freude über den Asphalt, als wär's ein Rhythmus, als gäb's ein Lied, das mich immer weiter durch die Straßen.
Hello, welcome to Gegenpressing, a German football podcast from the Football Grad Network. I'm your host, Bryce Dunn, and joining me, as always, is Manu Veth. Manu, how has your week been?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Really excited to talk about all these topics. And I'm getting ready to go to Germany next week. So I'm really excited to go home, see my family, see my parents, and watch a bunch of football, cover Football Grad on tour. So it's exciting, Bryce. Really excited. So, but how are you? How's it going over there?
Yeah, not too bad. It's finally got pretty chilly in London. It's always good to talk about the weather in the UK, live up to tradition, I suppose. But it's been good. I think we've had a fantastic weekend of football in many of the leagues in Europe and outside Europe. And yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about some of the German games. Plenty to talk about as always. But joining Manu and I is Chris Williams as always. Chris, how's your weekend been?
Oh, well, weekend's been all right, thanks. I've had a very busy week travelling up and down the United Kingdom at Celtic on Tuesday night, Liverpool on Wednesday. And then, unfortunately, I spent Thursday night at Arsenal. 90 minutes, I'm not going to get back. But it was good. It was a good week for Football Grad.
Oh, Chris, those images that you sent from Celtic Park. I was jealous before, but now it's even worse. That looked like an amazing evening.
That's an unbelievable place. I mean, I've been to some loud stadiums in my time, and quite a few of them have been in Germany. But Celtic Park was, wow, it was something else. Obviously, I'm a Liverpool fan, so you'll never walk alone, something special, but up there, wow, it was even more special. Fantastic stadium. If you get the chance, go.
Yeah, definitely. It's on my bucket list now, for sure. It was already on that list before, but wow. The coverage he did was just absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I haven't met one person yet that knows a Football Grad that hasn't been jealous of you being there, Chris. You had a hell of a tour last weekend. Yeah. Good work, I must say, in reporting. We had some fantastic images on the Football Grad network and accounts. And yeah, if you missed it, go over there. It's still there. If not, then you're going to have to tune into the next big European match day. But guys, let's jump into the Bundesliga. As I'm sure everyone's eager to hear. It was der Klassiker over the weekend. Late kickoff on Saturday, seeing Borussia Dortmund taking on Bayern Munich. Unfortunately, things did not go Borussia's way, it finishing at 3-1. Guys, we've kind of mentioned over the last few weeks, haven't we, that things haven't really been going their way, and it kind of continued, didn't it? Things didn't look great. I mean, I think we've got plenty to talk about here. Chris, let's go to you first. I mean, since Heynckes has taken over at Bayern, come back in, he really seems to have steadied the ship, and Dortmund have given away 11 points in the difference in the league, and things just don't look like they're going to turn anytime soon. I mean, what's your opinion and take on it all?
It's an odd one, because at the back they look terrible, and then up front they look okay. They just can't score. I mean, realistically, this game could have been 5-4. It was close in parts. And Dortmund let themselves down, I think. I'm not one for hanging players out to dry, but Toprak was culpable for all 3 Bayern goals. I don't think he settled well at all at Dortmund. The defence looks iffy. It's looked iffy for a while. I think I was there when they played Spurs at Wembley, and that was the first time I really saw it carved open that season. Don't forget, we're looking at August, September. I think they only conceded 2 goals in something like the first 7 games, and now they've conceded a lot in the last 4. Probably in the region of 11. I think now it's all of a sudden gone wrong. I think it's not being helped by the fact that they've fallen out of the Champions League as well, spectacularly fallen out of the Champions League. I mean, we all thought that it would be Real Madrid and Borussia Dortmund who go out of that group, and it's been Tottenham top with Real Madrid second at times. So they have spectacularly fallen out. The games against Apoel Nicosia just exacerbated that. They were poor away from home, they were poor at home. It's simple things. I mean, you don't have to know that much about German football to know that you don't let Arjen Robben have any time on his left foot. And it was 17 minutes in, and it's Schmelzer and Toprak just gave Robben the space for him to just pick his spot. And there's a beautiful shot of it, and he's had all the time in the world. And if you don't want to do that to Arjen Robben. And then again up front, it's not been all bad. So Christian Pulisic, I thought, was very good for Dortmund, and really should have been credited with a few assists. First of all, Kagawa inexplicably pulls a ball wide. Aubameyang, I don't know where he's left his shooting boots. I now do actually think he's injured. I think he picked up quite a bad knock at Freiburg maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, and it's not settled. So it's bad. But it doesn't feel too bad because they are playing okay football at times. It's just they can't score, but it's not going to help Peter Bosch's cause, is it? I don't think. He's under pressure, unbelievably. He's under pressure 11 games into his career at Dortmund.
Yeah, I mean, Manu, if we go to you on this, I mean, are you just going to echo what Chris has said? I mean, were things as bad as they seem on the night? And what do you feel they have to do going forward? Have they been found out?
That's a very good question, and I struggle with finding the answer. I did the match report for Fußballstadt.com on this game, and I thought that it was a really odd game in that, and I mean the stats back this up. Dortmund, there's only 2 categories that Dortmund were not leading in this game, and unfortunately one of them was the key categories, which was goals scored, right? But except for ball possession, Dortmund had all the key categories, total shots, shots inside the box, hit the woodwork, corner kicks, accurate passes accuracy, duels won. That it doesn't read like the statistic of a team that was utterly beaten. And I thought that Bayern deservedly won this game. I thought that they were better. They were more efficient. They seemed to have more urgency in their game, more confidence in their game. I thought that Arjen Robben, who I thought was the player of the match, was outstanding. And yeah, he's poorly defended, but still he pulls off that trick so many times, and he just does it so well, and he gets those goals. But I thought he was a real leader on the field as well. And he kind of showed, to me, he was almost the difference between Dortmund and Bayern, because he is so accurate and so straightforward and so effective, and just he shows that maturity and the ability to get the job done. And those are all things that are kind of lacking at Dortmund right now. And Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, I wonder why he was even on the field. I wouldn't have played him last week, actually. I thought Alexander Isak was good during the Cup. Honestly, the problem with Peter Bosch's system is, and this is maybe something we should discuss in a little bit, Peter Bosch's future. But I think the problem with Peter Bosch's system is it only works if every single part works against the ball. Now, if Aubameyang, and I think, Chris, you're right, I think he may be carrying a knock because he's been a ghost. If he doesn't work against the ball, that entire system just falls apart in its little systems. It becomes everyone for themselves. And that is a massive problem. So, if he doesn't work, if he doesn't put in the work rate, then he's not only not scoring goals, but he's hurting the entire system. And I wonder almost that, why not throw in the young striker? Even if Alexander Isak doesn't score, at least he will put in the work rate, which is so important for the entire tactical system. So that's maybe, something I would look at. But yeah, it was dire watching for Dortmund fans, and the amount of chances that, and not just Aubameyang, Yarmolenko had a real sitter as well. I thought that he left so many chances, that he should have scored, and I think they will all look back and say, well, the defense issues, that's one thing we've discussed it many times, but attack is really efficiency and attack is just not there right now. And so, if it's not gelling up front and you have problems in the back, then that's what you get.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, if we speak about Peter Bosz, as Manu rightfully said there, is it that he's going to need a bit more time, maybe a few transfer windows to get the players that he needs, and you feel that he's the right man, to take Dortmund forward, or do you think Dortmund need to react, if this continues in the next few match days, and maybe make that change just like Bayern did?
I don't know, I mean, he's only had 11 games. I don't think he's been blessed by particularly good luck. Don't forget, Osama Dembele's gone, and Dortmund's fluidity on their attack looks a little bit less since he's been gone. So I think he's been a big miss. He probably didn't expect Dembele to go. He's not been helped by the fact that Aubameyang is misfiring. So all of a sudden, the man who's getting 31 goals last season is struggling to score. Man who's quite right, Yarmolenko missed the sitter. Bartra scores a good goal at the end. They could have scored another goal in added time to make it 3-2. Doesn't seem as bad then. I think he has just had all his bad luck and bad fortune in one area. I do, though, question his use of Sahin and Weigl. I also question his use on Bartra. I don't think he's a natural player for the position he's put him in. So maybe he needs to look at not his setup, because I think we all understand that 4-3-3 suits Dortmund. It suits Aubameyang, and it suits Pulisic. It'll suit Royce when he comes back. It's more he may need to tweak it a little bit personnel-wise, and maybe he's not playing his strongest 11 at times, which is coming around to bite him on the backside.
Yeah, the Bartra, they went and bought Toljan, right? And now he's not playing, and Bartra is playing out of position. Bartra is a very good center back, I think, who just needs to play there because he can open the game up for them, right? Toprak has been very disappointed with him, and he's not the player that they need. Hans-Joachim Watzke said this week in the media that the defender that will make Borussia Dortmund better would cost 50 million euros. I guess that's quite a statement to make after a weekend like this. But that is maybe the area that they have to look at. And I almost wonder, and this is really controversial, Dortmund were very adamant not signing Aubameyang for not the right price, right? Because I guess they knew that they would have to go on and buy a new striker. But you almost wonder, and this is just thought process, if they actually almost hope they could sell Aubameyang to bring in a player that suits the system a little bit better. Because Aubameyang can be a ghost, right? And in this 4-3-3 extreme pressing system, you need to have players. Every single player needs to work, needs to put an enormous amount of work rate, and he doesn't always do that. So it's mostly just me thinking out loud, but that's actually something that I really wonder about. Like maybe Dortmund kind of banked on getting the big bucks for Aubameyang and then bring in one or two strikers that suit the system a little bit better. As it stands, they didn't, because the market value wasn't met, and you don't just sell a guy who scored 31 goals. It's something very controversial to do. You need to sell that to a fan base as well. But it's just something that I've been thinking about this last week or so. Like maybe that was something that they were actually looking at.
Manu, if we just talk about Bosz just for one last second, I mean, if after the international break on that Friday night, their next game away to Stuttgart, who have had a good season so far after being promoted, if that goes badly, would we see a possible reaction from the Dortmund board in getting rid of him?
Oh, it's a controversial question. I like it. I'm actually going to be at that game, Bryce, accreditation permitting. I think you have a lot of rumblings in the fan base. There's the hashtag BVB is maybe the most volatile hashtag in German football. And when you go on Twitter after a match day, it's either sky high or lowest of lows. There's not many clubs around the world that have this kind of that have that much controversy online, right? It's a very active, it's a very knowledgeable fan base. It's a fan base that is very opinionated. And that's a good thing, it helps. But I think that when you look at around, there's a lot of unrest in that fan base. I think I tweeted this out. I think that account has been closed actually already, but there's a Peter Bosz out Twitter account already, right? So, I think a couple more results could really lead to this unrest becoming worse. On the other hand, Dortmund are a very patient club. Klopp was allowed to be twice in last place with Dortmund in 2 different seasons, and they didn't react at all. They didn't, they carried on with their course, and in the end were proven right on both occasions, right? So I think the board is very capable of shutting all of that out, and just doing the thing and doing the right thing. And I think Dortmund's board and the people that are involved in the decision-making process, they're actually one of the few boards in football that actually know what they're doing. I often jokingly said that probably a lot of average people could do a better job at most clubs in the world. Dortmund is not one of them. They're very capable. They know what they're doing. And I think that they will give him quite a lot of time, Bryce. But Chris, I'm curious to hear your opinion on this, because this is something, that is going to carry on until they win.
Yeah, I'm not sure he needs to be sacked just yet. Let's take away the problems they've had in the Champions League, and let's take away the bad, I'm going to say, October and November that they've had, and they're still third. And they've, one win takes them second again. So on one hand, it's quite bad that they've let a 5-point lead slip, which, a 5-point lead round about the end of September time, start of October, you're looking, you want to build on that. And can you make that 5 into 7 at Christmas? Can you make that 7 into 10 round about March time? And you're looking, can you win the league? And that's pretty much what Bayern Munich did last season. So that would have been nice to see Dortmund do that. I can't see them going into free fall, and as we go into the winter break, them being in 6th. I think if that does happen, which I'm pretty sure it won't, he may go then. But at the moment, I think he's been brought in to oversee a bit of a transitional period, especially since Dembele went. It's a really, really young team. We said that on a number of occasions last season when Tuchel was in charge, that it's a young team and eventually it'll click and it'll fire into place. It just seems that we've gone 2 steps backward before it's going to have to take, 2 steps forward again. I would hold off on getting rid of him at the moment. If he was to move on and Peter Stoker wasn't to move on, I think we'd be in a very weird situation.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, I think we can both agree to that. But this is the first time they've lost back-to-back in the Bundesliga since April 2015, and they'll be hoping to change that when Manu is visiting when they're playing Stuttgart. But guys, let's talk about Bayern then. Obviously, they've had a managerial change of late, but Hank has done a hell of a job. They seem to be back on track, don't they, Manu? We talked, didn't we, that he would come in. He's been out of the game for a few years. He's going to be playing this 4-2-3-1. Oh, that's not going to work. Everyone else has moved on. It seems to be doing okay, though.
Yeah, he is the guy that proved all of us wrong. A fantastic job he has done. I thought that Bayern have looked very good in this game, and I love how he's just been able to get the confidence going again in all these guys. And you look at some of the players that he's kind of revived. Javi Martinez, for example, has been a rock for them, and all he did is move him from center back to midfield, where he is the best. That's his best position, and it's been remarkable how good he's been. Chris, he scored that header against Celtic that bloodied him, and then that's just such an important goal for them and at a key moment.
Oh yeah, it was. They were at that cusp where the crowd had turned and the crowd believed that Celtic could do it. And Celtic played exceptionally well that night, and they scored. And we're looking. I think it was less than 2 minutes later. He pops up and sticks his head in somewhere where I don't think many people would have done it, because I'm sure he saw out the corner of his eye he was going to get clattered.
Yeah, and they completely bloodied, right? keeps playing, and I thought he was fantastic in that game. He was not the standout player on the weekend, but he was still very good. But it's also someone like James. I thought James was really good in this game as well, and James was one of the question marks with Heinkes coming in, because James was one of those players that were considered a teacher's pet of Carlo Ancelotti's, and there was some doubts on whether James would have a future, but I thought he was really good in this game, and just gives them a very different option if used the right way. And the thing that I like about what Heinkes has done, he's shown a lot of flexibility with his system. Now, with Ancelotti was always at 4-3-3. In this game, he actually used that 4-3-3, but it was a very different kind of 4-3-3. It's almost like a 4-4-1. A 4-5-1 with very wide midfield that's kind of wraps around Lewandowski up top. And that worked for them in this game really well. And it shows that despite the fact that he's been gone for 4 years, he's still so involved in the game. And I think that has been key for them, that he's been just able to step in and just install confidence in all these players and just have them play in their best way. And yeah, I think it's interesting how he's been able to do that, and how he has basically just turned it around so fast. I think he himself even said it's remarkable that we were able to catch up to Dortmund so fast. He didn't expect it himself. So yeah, well done. And there's now even rumblings that Heinkes could stay at Bayern long term, which is something that we would have never guessed when he took over from Carlo Ancelotti. But if he gets the results, I can't see a better coach for them right now.
It was interesting, Manu, that when Robin was interviewed post-match, he said that he can be very, very happy since our new manager came in. So I think his words give you an indication into how unhappy they were with Ancelotti. And since Heinkes has come in, they all look a better side.
Yes, happiness. There's what we call in German Spielfreude, the joy of playing. And you see that, every single one. I thought Alaba was good. Alaba had been sort of invisible for the last year and a half, 2 years almost. And all of a sudden Heinkes comes in, and he's slowly but surely becoming the player that he was. And I think that is something that you can't discount, right? And maybe that's just man management.
Chris, though, if we look at, we spoke plenty about Bayern having weaknesses throughout that squad, a bit of an aging squad, and maybe the youth players or younger players in the squad weren't maybe reaching the heights that they had hoped that they would. Do you see them addressing this over the transfer market in the winter? Do you see, if they change their manager maybe in the summer, then maybe holding out their coach until he maybe comes in and they speak with him and make decisions with him? Or do you see, if Heinkes stays on, it's a little bit of a backward step, it's a bit of a pause at the moment?
No, I don't, because I think Bayern have got one of the most exciting young talents in German football. He's just not at Bayern Munich at the moment. In Serge Gnabry. And I would assume that if Heinkes stays, Gnabry will come back, and I can see him growing into this side again, because he's getting all the experience he needs. I think, and I'm not ageist, but I don't know if he might just be too old to take a long-term project on. We're looking at a Bayern going into transition, which could take them 2 to 3 seasons to be peak Bayern. And by I say peak Bayern, I mean going on and winning the Champions League. It's pretty much at the moment they have got the run of the mill of the Bundesliga. So although it's a bit of a pain for everyone that's watching that they're so strong and they have come so strong again, it's the European element where they need to get stronger, and any transition will hurt that. I don't know if at 72 he's just a little old to take on another challenge. But hey, Bryce, I mean, I'm 40 next year. You're not you're not that old, and Manu, you're not that old either, but we're all going to be working until we're 85, 90. So, hey, maybe 72 isn't that old anymore to manage a football team.
Yeah, well, I thought that is working till then, but maybe you're right. Maybe you're all right. But, guys, let's move on to the team that are now placed in second in the table after Dortmund kind of stalling over the last few weeks. We've seen RB Leipzig obviously lose to Heinkes' side last week, but they got back to winning ways this weekend when they took on Hannover, coming back from 1-0 down to win 2-1, especially right at the end with Werner scoring. Manu, you watched this game and you said it was absolutely fantastic entertainment.
It was great. This was a really good game with really two really good teams. And I mean, we raved about Hannover already last week and how good they were for a promoted side and how unexpectedly good they were for a promoted side, because we sort of thought, Stuttgart would be that team. But Hannover, it's everything, they just play really nice football. It's just a lot of fun to watch. And I sort of was wondering how they're going to take their football, their brand of football, to Leipzig. And for the first really 60 minutes or so, they shocked Leipzig because they went there and they just played the aggressive, attacking football, going forward, not being afraid. And Leipzig can be a really noisy place, can be a difficult place to play at, and they had no fear whatsoever. And I thought it was really great to watch. And then, of course, they scored the opener, and Leipzig had to work really hard to get back into this game. And it was just really good fun all around, perfect football. I mean, Fox labeled this as Super Saturday because the top 4 teams were playing against each other, and Hannover did look like a top 4 team. And yes, they were beaten in the end, but that's because Leipzig has a really good squad, but Leipzig had to work very hard to get this result. And I thought it was interesting that Ralf Hasenhüttl went into this game thinking, okay, well, we can rotate our squad a little bit. And he brought in Leimer, he brought in Bruma, and he had to pay a little bit of a price for that. And he had to kind of make some changes. He had to bring in Keita, he had to bring in Forsberg, he had to bring in, just make those changes to get the side back going and turn this result around. And yeah, I thought it was an interesting game to watch. It was a fun game to watch. And I actually thought this was the better of the 2 Super Saturday games. And it's a result that will, I think, actually help both clubs. Yes, Hannover will be disappointed that they lost, but I think they will take a lot away from this game.
One gift that never gets returned? Trick question. It's 3 gifts: beer, wine, and spirits. And with Drizzly, you can send the gift of drinks right to your loved one's doors. Drizzly lets you compare prices from local liquor stores on a huge selection of beer, wine, and holiday spirits, then get them delivered right to that lucky someone's door in under 60 minutes. And right now, Drizzly is giving customers $5 off their first order. Just enter promo code JINGLE at checkout. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com.
It wouldn't be the holiday season if there wasn't candy, right? Celebrate the holiday season with the Holiday Crush. They've sprinkled candy with a holiday theme and fun-packed challenges every week for 5 whole weeks, finishing on January 4th. The more challenges you complete, the better your chances of unwrapping delicious rewards. So, are you ready to crush the holidays? Play the Holiday Crush now. Download it from the App Store, Google Play, or Windows Store for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Yeah, as you said, Hannover are having a pretty good season, up in 6th even after that loss. But Chris, we just speak about RB Leipzig a little bit further. We obviously seen last year they surprised everyone with somewhat of a title challenge, which I suppose fell away a little bit towards the end of the season, but they were somewhat the surprise package. They're up to 2nd now, the 4 points behind Bayern. Can you see them possibly staying up there with them, possibly mounting a bit of a challenge and it being a bit closer this season compared to the end of last?
After this particular game, I can see them maybe going on and doing what they did last season, because this was a tough game for them. I mean, they were carved open, Leipzig were, for the first goal. And it was fantastic play by Hannover. And it was Bibu slid the ball through, and it was a beautiful pass, sliced Leipzig apart. But they came back from it and they got a late winner on 85 minutes. And if you're in a tough game and you can go one behind and you can score afterwards, late on 70 minutes, Poulsen scored, and that goal's all about Timo Werner. And then for Werner to jump up and slot the winning goal in on the 85th minute, that is a sign, not of a champion winning side, but a side who can push for a title. Because when maybe they should be grinding out results, they do it. I mean, I hate to say it was almost a very Bayern performance. They were second for part of the game, and then they've come on top and they've taken the chances and they've taken clinically and they've won the game. And their stars rose to the top. Forsberg played very, very well when he came on. Timo Werner was a superstar for the first goal. You have to take your hat off to Diego Demme with the clip ball from deep inside the Leipzig half to put Forsberg through, squares it for Werner. That's a brilliant goal for so late on, and that just gives me a little bit of an inclination that they may have a similar sort of season again, especially if they're picking up results like this when it's maybe not going their way.
What about you, Manu? You obviously tuned in and watched the game as well. Do you agree with Chris that this was a tough game for them? They still managed to come through the Stars, really pulling one out of the bag for them. Do you see them being able to stay afloat?
You mean Leipzig?
Yes.
Yeah.
Staying afloat, sorry, with the title race, the title challenge.
I thought it was a test of character, and you look at Timo Werner, and he seemed frustrated at times, but then he pops up with a fantastic assist to Poulsen, and he then scores the game winner, and it shows that despite being frustrated with the game, he was able to kind of shove that aside and just get on with it, and that is a test of character to get through a game like that, and they did it, and I think those are 3 massive points for them. They are the biggest Bayern hunter right now. They are the team that are closest to Bayern. They are the team that will be there when Bayern slips up, and I think they can do it, and they can have the consistency. They just can't. The one thing that they need to learn, and they finally need to learn, is not to slip up against Bayern. I think that dropping those 2 games was very unnecessary. So maybe by the spring, that maturity will be finally there. And, games like that help to get that maturity.
Yeah, most certainly. I hope for our own entertainment that, a team like Leipzig that at times plays such fantastic football can keep up with the likes of Bayern and whoever else might be up there. Dortmund fans will be certainly be hoping that'll be them as well. Guys, a quick word on Hannover. Obviously, they've started pretty well. This weekend obviously didn't go the way that they would have liked it, but it's been a fantastic start, which we've mentioned on previous pods. And can we see them obviously staying up? Things look good for them, but where exactly can we expect them to finish? Maybe, I mean, is a European spot or a top half finish maybe a bit too far, Chris?
I'm going to say that a European spot's too far for them, especially with Leverkusen being better than they were last season. Gladbach a little bit more improved than they were last season as well. And Schalke are right up there 4th at the moment. I think to get in one of those top 6 places, they aren't one of the best 6 teams in Germany at the moment. However, they have been playing very well. So I think if they were to finish 10th, I think that would be an excellent season for them. I think if they finish 15th, that would be an excellent season for them. It's all about staying in the Bundesliga now they've got back in it. But realistically, I can probably see them finishing about 10th.
Yeah, I think we'd all agree that would not be a bad season at all for them, would it? Okay, guys, well, let's just have a little look towards the bottom of the table. This weekend, we've seen Hamburg take on Stuttgart and get, well, a rather impressive and important win. They managed to come out on top 3-1. Obviously, we've seen over the last few years, guys, haven't we, that Hamburg have struggled. They've just about stayed in the top flights. And this is a pretty big victory for them against newly promoted Stuttgart. And I mean, what can we maybe expect from Hamburg this season? Manu, are we going to see them have another struggling time, and possibly going into that that playoff battle as such?
I think the 3 teams that are down there right now are the 3 teams that we're going to see there at the end of the season. And Hamburg are not one of them, but Hamburg, they are a team that has struggled in the last few years, and there's reasons for that. They are massive rebuild. They have been in a massive rebuild now for 3 or 4 years and haven't really done the right things to get out of that situation. And I think it's only been since Gistol took over that the club has taken a right direction. But, the sins committed in the last 4 or 5 years take more than a year and a half to fix. I think this season is another transitional year, but I see some signs, some tiny little signs that things can maybe go a little bit better, and maybe, just maybe, they can pull off a mid-table finish rather than having to worry until the last day of the season again. But I really, what I think is a great storyline is the story of Jan Fiete, the young striker that they have, who's only 17 years old and has now played twice, and he scored last week in the loss, and then he scored again this week, and he's one of the most sought after striker talents in European football, and they must just be so happy to have him because he shows a kind of maturity that you don't have in that side, especially on his position. They just sold Lasocca to Leeds United. Bobby Wood has been really misfiring for quite some time now, and to have a talent like a jewel like that come in and step in and get the job done for them, that is really fortunate. And I think it's good for Gistol to bring in up, and also the young Japanese Tatsuma Ito, who's only 20 years old, who replaced Andre Hahn. And I think it's a good sign that there's, young players like that coming through. And I think they will have to be the foundation for Hamburg's rejuvenation.
Yeah, I think there's positive signs certainly to be had there with the youngsters. Chris, can I just ask a quick question? What's your opinion on Bobby Wood? I must say that I'm not his biggest fan. Might be a bit controversial, but I don't think he's lived up to maybe the hype that some would have put around Bobby Wood.
No, I think you're quite right. He had a great start, didn't he, to life at Hamburg, and he's sort of fallen off the pedestal a little bit. But I mean, was he ever up there in the first place? He's got plenty of potential. He's just not living up to it at the moment. I don't think he's been helped by their under-19 lad coming through, Arp, and having such a good start to his time in the senior side. But I mean, I don't really know how much not getting to the World Cup has affected the whole of the US men's national side, be it main players and fringe players as well. They've got nothing to look forward to in the summer at the moment. I don't know how much that's playing with their head. You don't know how much he's settled really at Hamburg at the moment. Is he looking to move on? Is he particularly happy? You probably wouldn't think he'd be that happy. He may just be in a bit of a bad situation. So I wouldn't be maybe as harsh as you, Bryce, to say that he's not lived up to his expectation. Maybe he's just having a bit of a bad time of it at the moment. But I've seen plenty of him to know that once it does click back into for him, I mean, he has got a deadly finish, and he's very strong, he's very powerful, he's good in the air, and he can certainly finish on the floor. So he's got all the attributes he needs to be a good striker in this league.
Yeah, Bryce, I followed Bobby Wood's career for quite some time now, because he's actually from 1860s Academy. And there was always questions about his attitude and his work rate, even at 1860. And 1860 actually spent a long time, was very patient with him, giving him time to recuperate from various injuries and giving him time to play. The problem was that it was either completely on or off for him. And he had one good year with Union Berlin in Bundesliga 2. And that's where the big price tag comes from. And that's also where a lot of the hype is coming from. Now, he has not shown that consistently in the Bundesliga. The level that he's shown for 1 year at Union, he has not shown that in the Bundesliga at all. How do strikers get valued? By scoring goals. And, he hasn't never scored double digits in Germany in top flight. And that is a warning sign for me. You know, you can rate a player as high as you want to, and they gave him a big contract, and I guess he's kind of resting on that a little bit. But yeah, I'm worried that, you know, his head might be elsewhere, and whatever else is going on with the US national team, you know, that's all great and good, but his day job is in Hamburg. His head should not be about the missed chance in Russia. It should be all about getting the job done with his club. And, you know, maybe this plays into the entire US debate. Maybe this is for an entire different story, but there is a big question mark right now in the United States about US players and, whether they have that ability to overcome problems and, you know, play above their means. And yeah, a bit of a character question. And, Bobby Wood is sometimes showing that a little bit. So I think if a 17-year-old comes in and outplays you, it doesn't matter how talented he is, then there is something that he should be worrying about. He needs to put in the work rate and show it that he can play in this league, because right now he's not showing it.
So you don't think it's a matter of maybe him being at the wrong club? Maybe another club would nurture him a little bit better?
I think Hamburg nurtured him plenty by giving him a big contract. You know, they're paying him. I heard somewhere between 3 and 4 million euros. That's a lot of money for someone who's never scored double digits, Bryce.
Marketing ploy.
Yeah, maybe.
Just putting that out there.
Marketing doesn't keep you in the league.
Very true. Guys, let's talk about a subject which we have probably discussed in plenty, VAR. A little bit of controversy at the moment. We have Helmut Krug. I think that's how you pronounce it, is it? Krug?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a former referee who's the head of the VAR program at the moment. This guy has he's refereed even at Champions League finals. I believe the 2001 actually, but it's been a bit questionable all season, hasn't it, Joe? Some people saying the big clubs seem to get the decisions, or they seem to be more one-sided, but he's been accused of influencing these decisions. Manu, what exactly can you tell us about this story? I mean, it's pretty big news.
Oh, well, there's questions about him influencing a bunch of things, and there's accusations by referee Manuel Gräfe that there's nepotism within the refereeing board, that Helmut Krug is favoring certain referees over others. This has been a long-term allegation that's been going on for quite some time now. Helmut Krug has been removed from making game day decisions in the VAR, but he's still overseeing the project. Manuel Gräfe, who I think rightfully criticized the referee decision-making board, has been given a warning, a yellow card, as the press said. And basically, if he ever speaks out again, will be banned from refereeing games. And which is not a great sign, because I think what Gräfe said and what Gräfe criticized about the way referees were selected by the board, he seems to be on something. And yeah, there's been some accusations that Krug had influenced decisions during games, which he's not supposed to do. Only the
I'm just going to jump in, because I think this has probably only happened once before when we've been doing a live pod, but he's just been sacked. Just right now, it's just come through. He's been sacked as we record this. He's just been removed. There
you go.
The German Football Association, the DFB, have announced that Helmut Krug will no longer act as VAR project manager and cease his supervisory role at the League's control centre in Cologne with immediate effect.
Well, that's consequential. Wow. But that's consequential because it's been a mess, and you can't. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. You cannot be the project supervisor and then try to influence, because what they do, you have a referee on the field, you have the linesman, you have an assistant referee who can come in, right, and replace the main referee and also acts in the coaching zone, and then you have one VAR referee. But apparently Helmut Krug has been influencing the decisions that have been made during games while they sit in the control room in Cologne, and that's just a big no-no. Like, that can't be. There is a guy in charge for it, right? That's like having the supervisor call in during the game and tell the referee is doing a bad job, right? Can't do that. And then there's the entire thing that Helmut Krug decided. And this is such a big boo-boo, right, Chris? I mean, we talked about the EFAB many times before. Krug and co. basically decided that the rules laid out by the EFAB, and they're the ruling control board of FIFA, that they weren't the right rules. So they just decided that VAR would be used for anything, you know? And that is just bad.
I mean, it is. Basically, he's taken the ruling from the International Football Association board, you know, is made up of FIFA and the four home British nations who come together every single year and amend the rules of football, the laws of football, sorry. And he's just taken it off his own back to implement it in a way that he thinks it should be done, which isn't, you know, in accordance with the direction and the guidance given to every other league that's testing it at this moment in time. Dieter Heckin's come out today and said he thinks that it probably won't be in use after December's winter break.
Yeah, that's too bad, because I do actually like the project. I think it's a good idea, but you know, the DFB has handled it so poorly. You know, the other thing that's come out is that Krug did this and he didn't even tell the clubs. The clubs didn't know that there has been a change in direction. That's just crazy. It's basically, you don't tell your shareholders that you are changing the way you're running the product. And the fans didn't know. You know, how often have we discussed that the one main issue of VAR that we had was the lack of transparency? Now this just adds to it. And I really hate to say this, but you know, we cover MLS quite a bit as well, and I'm in Vancouver almost every second week. And of all the games I've covered live in Vancouver, there has never been a VAR decision, even though VAR can be used by the referees. And that's just telling. That's how much it should only come in to decide absolute key moments. But these days, we don't have a single Bundesliga game without a VAR decision. And it's just too much. And I think that's something that Krug obviously came up with. But, you know, I think VAR is a great tool that should be used only at key moments in games. And there isn't really that many.
I'm in full agreement. And for a while, I thought technology had no place in football, because football's the world game, because it doesn't matter if you play in the Allianz Arena or if you're playing in a local park on a Sunday morning, you go by the same laws. The same laws of the game affect the very at the top as they do at the very bottom of the amateur game. And that's why football's such a good game, because, you know, you go and play on a weekday and you're under the same, you know, the same laws, the same guidance as the likes of Lewandowski, likes of Robben, Aubameyang, Pulisic. You know, you're playing the game to the same level, but it's such a fast game now. And it's such a shame that VAR hasn't worked, because it's as crucial as a technological advancement as the Hawkeye was on the goal line technology, which takes a minimum of 1 second. The referee just looks at his watch and he knows if it's a goal straight away. It's not intrusive. It doesn't slow the game down. It can be reviewed afterwards. You know, how close was it? Was it an inch? Was it a foot? You know, we know exactly how little the ball is either all the way over or it's not. There's no disputing the fact. And I think somehow VAR's got lost in. We all know why it was brought in. It goes back to that Lampard goal that never was against Germany, where it hit the bar and it bounced in, and it was a good 3-4 foot over. And that's what made FIFA change their mind. That something like this needs to be introduced. And that's where the goal line technology came in, and it's gone to VAR above and beyond this. And I think it is a really, really important tool. It's just in danger of being watered down for everything. They need to make a key 4-5 reasons like they have why it's used, and it's only used for that. And it doesn't matter, well, there's a camera there, so did he pull his shirt, did he not pull his shirt? It's not there for that. It's there for these distinct areas only. And if you start to dilute the game, then it does become a little bit like American football is in gridiron, and there's, you know, yellow flags or handkerchiefs being thrown around everywhere and we're getting stopped. But I do think it's there to be used. It just needs to be implemented properly. And this travesty that's happened behind the scenes, it's just a nail in the coffin for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Chris, would you see it as a failure if they did drop a at the winter break. Do you think that they should try and iron out the creases, but they've got to keep going forward for the future of the project and see out the rest of the season?
I don't know, because this isn't the first time it's been used in a Bundesliga VAR. It's the first time it's been used publicly, but it was trialled for most of last season. So it's been in the background, and all these sort of problems are being ironed out, which I think is why some of the other leagues have decided not to take it yet, and they will take it if and when all the problems are ironed out. Mm-hmm. So it had to be trialled somewhere. It's just unfortunate that it's gone on this way in the Bundesliga, because it doesn't look particularly good for anybody, especially for the DFB.
If I was the DFL or the DFB, I would talk to someone like Howard Webb, who's running the VAR system over here in North America. And you guys know this. I was very critical at first how MLS used it, because I thought that they were running too often to the screen. They have limited that significantly now. You almost don't notice that VAR is in a game in Major League Soccer, and that's a good thing. And that's I'm 100% sure that's Howard Webb's work. And Howard Webb is, I was fortunate enough to meet him once at the Wembley event, and he's the kind of personality that seems to be getting it right. And all the DFB basically needs to do is call up Bibiana Steinhaus and say, like, oh, can you talk to Howard and get him over here to help us out with this? Because he got it right in MLS. And that they need to talk to Major League Soccer and the Pro Referee Association in Major League Soccer and take a look at it and see how MLS has handled it, because they're doing a better job.
Manu, obviously Chris mentions the NFL then when talking about VAR, and we don't want it to be stop, start, which is, I think everyone can be in agreement as that. But would you say that they would be beneficial in taking the part of the VAR in NFL, in that the referee then announces to the crowd what exactly the decision is to help that transparency? Do you think that's something that they could benefit from?
Yeah, I think fans hate it because they're confused about it. And in North America, and hockey does the same, ice hockey does the same thing. The referee explains the decision when a decision is made, and that doesn't take long. They do that sign with the television sign anyways, and then all they need to do is use the microphone that they already have and say, player A held player B in the box, therefore penalty. That's all that needs to be done, right? Or player A was a step ahead of player B, therefore the ball was offside and the goal wasn't given. Boom. Everyone in the stadium will be just silent and say, okay, well, that makes sense. Because in real time, you will not see it. And all that takes is 10 seconds and it calms everything down. And I think that is something that they need to look at.
I suppose time will only tell if they decide to keep it on after the winter break. But guys, let's drop down a division. We had somebody mention this week, didn't we? Well, they wanted to know a little bit more about not just Bundesliga 2, but about Holstein Kiel and how they've, they're newly promoted side this year, but how they're doing so well. I mean, they're sitting up in second place, had a hell of a run this season. They've got 29 points, just 1 point behind Dusseldorf. Manu, you've mentioned that Holstein Kiel have never been in the Bundesliga before. I remember looking into their history previously, and it seemed like they were a quite decent team back in the 1920s. That was obviously a while ago. What can you tell us about Holstein Kiel?
I can tell you that Kiel is a great city for European handball. It's
that's more popular there than football.
Yeah, it is.
Or is that wrong?
Well, it was for a long time. The handball team is struggling a little bit right now, and Holstein Kiel has come in at just that time when that happened, and sort of really is becoming the hip team in Kiel. And Schleswig-Holstein, the land or the state that Kiel is the capital of, never had a Bundesliga side before in the entire history. So it's still one of the few places in Germany that were never represented in the top flight football. And it could happen this year. And the Storks, as they are called, now they are financed very well. There's money in this project. There's several investors that are putting money into this, and they actually have a plan. It's more of a 5-6 year plan that they eventually want to knock on the Bundesliga door. I guess they didn't really think it would happen this quickly, that they had a chance to be part of the promotion race and, go to almost the very top of the league. They're second now behind Düsseldorf, right? So, but it's an interesting project. I'm not sure if they have, the depth or the infrastructure yet to play in the Bundesliga, Bryce, because there's issues about the stadium, there's issues about the training ground. There's a reason why when the investors took over the club, that they said, well, this will take time, because we need the time to put everything into place, right? To play Bundesliga. Having a squad is one thing, but you saw that with Darmstadt that burst onto the scene, but didn't even have the proper stadium to play at, right? Or with Paderborn that didn't have a training ground. They had to basically just train on a field that was used by a high school. These things are very important. You need to be on a strong foundation when you go to the Bundesliga. And this is maybe one thing that worries me if they would go straight up, that their foundation couldn't be strong enough to sustain it. And I mean, in the case of Paderborn, they almost ended up in Liga 4 last year, right? It was only because of 1860 not getting the license to play in Liga 3 that they actually stayed in the league. That not being on strong foundation can hurt you if you rise up too quickly. So it's great to see this. But I almost wonder whether it is too fast for them. And when you look around that league, right, Chris, I mean, we have Union Berlin. That's a great side. That's right behind them. We tipped rightly to be one of the promoted teams. You have Nuremberg, you have St. Pauli. Those are teams that are ready for Bundesliga football right now.
Yeah, and I think it would be a step too far, a little like Ingolstadt, like you mentioned, and maybe even Darmstadt as well, and definitely Paderborn. And you're right, they just about escaped what would have been a remarkable story, dropping from the very top right down. I don't know if they'd be ready. I don't know if they got the staying power. Look who's behind them. You've said Union Berlin are there, Nuremberg are there, St. Pauli are there. There's teams who have got the ability to go up and maybe give a better challenge. So whilst it would be a nice story, maybe they're a season or so off ready for going up to the main Bundesliga yet.
Yeah, but how great would it be to have Düsseldorf back in the Bundesliga, Chris? I mean, that's another side with a very big ground and quite a strong history.
Oh yeah, big ground, big history, and also in a hotbed of football, a real hotbed of football. And yeah, it would be another reason to visit that Ruhr area, which is such a nice area, and I love it over there. And if you've never been to Düsseldorf, go, because not only do they have a really nice football stadium, they've got a fantastic old market town as well, which is fantastic at night.
Yeah, and there's actually this might be interesting for the two of you. There's a link between Düsseldorf and Liverpool, and that's the rock band or punk rock band Die Toten Hosen. The lead singer of Die Toten Hosen actually supports
Liverpool fan.
He's a massive Liverpool fan, but he's also a massive Fortuna Düsseldorf fan. So that's I always love that. And there's actually there's a couple. Actually, a lot of their songs. The song that you hear at the beginning of the podcast is actually from them. So there you go. But there's also a song that he did about Bayern, and there's a couple words in that song that we will not repeat on this podcast. But yeah, that's a really cool link. And, for me, they're always that punk rock team. The support of the Toten Hosen. I believe the Toten Hosen song is actually sung before games there as well, and they sponsored the team for quite some time as well when they were almost going into bankruptcy. So yeah, it's a really cool link, I think.
And he's a nice guy. I met him at the You'll Never Walk Alone premiere that I went to in Essen earlier on this year. He's a real nice guy.
Yeah, legend.
There we go. I think that more or less does it for this week's podcast. Actually, Chris, I've been meaning to ask you, I meant to ask you off air, but I'll ask you now. What do you think of this new German kit that was just released today?
I saw a great analogy before. It was, this is what happens when you forget to do your printing at home in colour and you have to use a black and white printer at work. It's a lovely shirt, but I wish they would have given it the colour of the Italia 90 shirt.
Agreed.
Yeah, I must say I quite like it as well. But Manu, it'll obviously be interesting to hear your opinion.
Yeah, if you go retro, at least give it the color. It does. You know what happened is the design team, they had to come up with a whole bunch of different ideas, and to save money, they printed all the old jerseys out in black and white, and they looked at the 1990 kit and they're like, oh, I'm a genius. It's like, no, you're not a genius. You basically took a black and white copy of an old shirt and made it a new one. I don't know. If you go that route, at least go colorful.
I'd have liked to have seen it in color and the classic green away kit as well, exactly the same. I know it's going to be close, but I would have liked to have seen, like you, an exact replica.
Yeah.
Only because it's really hard to get the original shirt.
And they did a few of, when you look at the other countries that did it, I know Russia did it, the Soviet Union 1988 kit. For Colombia, they did the 1994 kit. For Spain, they did the 1996 kit. And they were all true to the colors, except for the Germany one. So, I don't know. I'll probably buy it if we win the entire thing. But if not, then probably not.
I mean, it could be worse, Bryce. Have you seen the Belgian kit? They've given them a golf shirt.
No, I haven't, but I'll be Googling that as soon as we're off air, I feel. Guys, we're going to more or less call it a day there. But final question. You don't have to give me a scoreline. England versus Germany. That's happening Friday night. Chris, scoreline prediction. Doesn't matter about any reason. Just say.
England to win 2-1 because it's a friendly at Wembley and they give it far more impetus than it's worth.
And Manu?
We won the last one there, right? And we lost the last game to England at home. I would say 1-0 for Germany.
I'll go 2-0 Germany. And that will do it. Chris, what would you like to draw people's attention to, or where can people find you online?
If anyone wants to follow me, they can on Twitter. It's at Chris78Williams. And then you'll just catch all. Most of my writing these days is on Football Ground on Football Stat. I'm doing the England-Germany preview and also going to be doing the England-Brazil preview for Football Saturday as well.
Lovely, jubbly. And Manu, what have you got going on? What would you like to draw people's attention to?
Yeah, if people want to follow me, that's fine. That's at Manuel Veth. And I'm really excited. We're actually doing our first ever MLS podcast this week. Jack Grims and I are going to launch that project. It's going to be very on and off, really, because the season is almost over. But it's something with a long eye on next season. But yeah, the first episode will be recorded this week, so that's very exciting.
Very exciting indeed, and good luck with that recording. I would just like to draw the attention to, which we're going to record straight after this one, Manu and I, the Golazzo podcast, talking about the Liga MX. Very exciting time in that league. You can find me on Twitter at Bryce Dunn 11. Apart from that more or less does it. Enjoy the international break if you can, and we'll be back very soon, probably to discuss it, to be honest. Auf Wiedersehen.
Ich warte seit Wochen auf diesen Tag und tanz vor Freude über den Asphalt. Als wär's ein Rhythmus, als gäb's ein Lied, das mich immer weiter durch die Straßen zieht. Komm dir entgegen, ich hab zu holen.
Do you love watching live TV but are tired of your huge cable bill? Sling TV has the same top cable channels for as little as half the price, so you can save hundreds of dollars while still watching your favorite sports, news, reality TV, and more. Ditch cable and get Sling's total live streaming solution with free local channels. Setup and installation are included. Make the smart choice and switch to Sling TV. Get the best of cable for the best price. Learn more at sling.com/cutcable. That's sling.com/cutcable. Setup and installation included with $49 down and $20 a month for 12 months. Restrictions apply.
Thank you for listening to Believe. You can show support to your host by subscribing to the show and giving us a 5-star rating on your preferred platform. Check us out at Believe.com and search for BLEAV on YouTube.